Hello, this is your database coach, specializing in all things Couchbase. In this module, we're going to take a look at a frequent recommendation for Couchbase and why it makes a difference in your query performance. And that is covered queries. What are they, and why are they recommended so often? First off, let's take a look at what it means to build a covered index. Normally, when you design an index, you are concerned with what data elements might be in your query where clause. By making sure all of these elements are in your index, you can prevent your query from fetching any excess documents that will have to be filtered from your result set. And this is good. By making sure that all filter conditions are met in the index, you're preventing any unnecessary work from having to be done. But what about the other data elements in the query? You know, the ones in the other clauses. Most significantly, the select clause. Normally, with most databases, you probably wouldn't think to add these to the index. After all, they aren't adding to identifying what records need to be returned. All they're doing is bloating the size of the index. But with Couchbase, there can be a benefit to add these to the index. Yes, it'll still increase the size of the index, bloating it just as much as with any other database. But if all of the data elements needed to service the query are in the index, it can provide a performance boost by moving some phases of the query processing into the index scan phase. The biggest performance boost is often from eliminating the fetch phase. Why does this boost the performance? Keep in mind that with Couchbase, the data, index, and query services are all separate processes and may be running on different nodes in your cluster. So when the index service returns a list of documents to be included in your results, the query service then has to fetch them from the data service. Depending on how many documents need to be fetched, it can make a difference in how long it takes to complete that phase. If your index scan only returns a single document ID, the fetch might only take a single millisecond. But if the index scan returns a few thousand document IDs, suddenly we can be talking about seconds to perform the fetches. Now, having to perform the fetch phase has become a chore that we would like to avoid. So if we load up the index with all of the data elements needed by the query, we can produce a covered query where the index scan will return all of those data elements, and not just the document IDs. Suddenly, we no longer need to perform the fetch. And we've cut out a lot of processing time from the query. Plus, there can be other benefits as well. If your query performs any grouping or sorting of the result set, or calculates an aggregated value, it can often move these tasks into the index scan as well. So now we've taken some calculation-intensive steps that normally would be performed near the end of the query processing and moved them to the beginning. So how do you know if you've got a covered query? The easiest way to know if you've got a covered query is to take a look at the query plan. If your query is covered, you'll have all of these covered notations in various places within the plan. Plus, the biggest tell is that there is no fetch phase in the plan. So how do you create a covered query? Take a look at your query and make a note of all of the data elements in all clauses. Every one of these need to be in your index. And you better not have a star in the select clause. Even if you have every data element in the documents to be returned in the index, if there's a star in the select clause, it will not be a covered query. Why? Because the query service doesn't know what data elements might be in those documents, so it doesn't know if they are all in the index. It's not going to take the chance that it might miss some. So, no stars in the select clause, and make sure that all data elements in all clauses are in the index. Oh, and pay attention to all the other query tuning concerns like selectivity, so you can make sure your index scan is efficient. I hope this video has helped you understand how you can create covered queries and why you should create them to have queries that perform. If you found it helpful, please hit the subscribe button below to be notified of additional videos in this series. And if you need help in optimizing your Couchbase database, please reach out and give me a call. I'm here to help. And finally, if you have a topic you would like to see covered in this series, please let me know. If it makes sense and I haven't already covered it, I'll add it to my list.